Hello and shalom, everybody. I am so sorry I did not come in last Monday. Um, can't recall why. I know a lot of people say, well, you don't have to explain everything, but it's kind of like how I am. That's just how I function. I usually just like let everybody know why I was missing, MIA, missing in action, um, as I go along. But this time I can't recall as to why I missed last Monday. But anyways, we are here today. Today is Monday, and we are going to study on with Genesis, having now somewhat of a background with the Bible maps and charts, and now we're in the Word to see what all these events during their timelines, what took place during them with Father. And so we saw the start of creation, and then now we're getting into like the bigger picture of what's going on after all things got completed, and now life started to happen in the garden, where he placed a man and woman in the garden, and then what he told them to be doing, by taking dominion and doing stuff for Father the same way. Okay, so last Monday, the following Monday, the previous Monday before the last Monday, I completed all of chapter 3, and we got to see what took place there. And then, of course, I gave my explanation as to how some could look at Father's words not being like he doesn't keep to his word, for him having said the word, if you eat of this fruit you shall surely die, and then all of a sudden we don't see them die, we see them carry on living. And there's a lot of teachings that point to Father's compassion, which Father is very compassionate, and he is loving, and he is a just Elohim, he's a just judge. But then I gave you my insights from where I had studied down the road in Leviticus, where the laws are, and how Father talks about the word cut off. And to me, I think it's interchangeable with the word die. And these sentences, as a just judge, what comes about when he says certain words, because not everything that we see in our English, and this is why it's so it's good to have other study materials alongside with the other various versions of the word from different types of, you have the New King James version, you have the English Standard Version, all those, to give you more of an insight to which one is like closest to what the definition would actually be, or the Hebrew word or the Greek word of it, from how I'm understanding it myself. Because remember, all this is all transliterations of transliterations to transliteration. So there's a lot from what was spoken way back when to what we have today, and all of us trying to, study, to show ourselves approved, in a sense that when we study it and we really understand what Father's saying, then we put it right away into action, what he would have us to do, because we're to learn all this because his word is still relevant for today. All his commandments are still for us today. Sadly, like I said, hopefully down the road I can speak more about the corruptions of what's taken place, even from what we can see through the history of where man started basically putting themselves above Father's word and making his word of no effect. And so that's why so many are still living in poor states with Father, poor situations, and yet they don't understand why, or they look to him with anger and blame. There's so many mixed emotions with how many think towards Father today. And Yeshua had to come back, Jesus had to come back and show what was going on, the corruptions of what was happening um, with man and Father, and just putting Father's ways of living the way we ought to be to the side, while man is starting to take authority. But like I said, that's down the road. But what we can learn from Genesis is how it started, how, from the fall of Adam and Eve, how um, this warring within our spirit of doing good and evil, because remember, they ate from the fruit that is, of knowledge of good and of evil. So having eaten that, and then of course kicked out of the garden, and we all come from them, well, we all have this within our spirit where we we have this choice battling within our spirit to do right from wrong. This thing that, even though we know of the right, sometimes some don't want to do right, and some actually don't mind doing bad. It all just comes from that situation of that worrying in our spirit. Okay, so like I said, I just got done reading chapter 3, so we're going on to chapter 4. And we'll just keep seeing what happens with mankind and what Father had to do, as a just judge that he is, what he's going to do, and how we are his creation. We are to obey, just like it says, that the stars and the sun and the moon and all that he's placed, it obeys him. Even nature obeys. And us humans, we're the ones that don't catch on, and we're the ones facing, his chastisements. But we're to learn. We're even to learn from creation, that it obeys him, and we're supposed to be obedient. But anyways, let's get into it. I'm going to pray and hope that Father helps us in our understanding. So this way we can learn from the past, so we, don't repeat like that saying, history repeats itself. And this way we can start getting back to our Creator, and, there's blessings in it. And we'll see that what he says, when we are obedient, there's blessings from it. And when we don't, there's curses. That's where it's at. Father Yahweh, I want to give you praise and thanks today for just loving us the way that you do, for waking us up and giving us a brand new day to do good. We can do bad, or we could do good, Father, and you'll give us another day to always choose to do right. And this way we can see your hand in our lives when we start reaping blessings upon our lives. And so I just thank you, Father, that we have your word, that we can look at it and we can know and we can see when things are not going so good. We have to question. But if we just go to your word, we can spot out maybe the dilemma or the situation that has us in a bind with you. And we can correct it right away. Or we can just keep reading your word in joy, just seeing the fact that many blessings are from you, Father, and we just may we never stop coming to you, to getting to know your word, so that way we can do your word right, Father. Because it's 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 not enough to just say that we have a belief, Father, and we don't prove it by not, you know, walking in it. You want us to live out your word to prove how much we believe you and that we have you and that we know you. So many of us, have claimed at one point we had you, but we didn't have you fully until we came to reading your whole word, and you even showed how that was, in a sense, well, it's not in a sense, but even our words are caught in a lie because we're not found doing what your word says to do, to show our love to you as you being our Elohim, our God, our Abba, our Father, and our King. So may we come back to doing what is right, Father. So this way, um, we know we 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 won't be saying things in error anymore. We'll just know we truly have you. In Yeshua's name, Father, give us your words today as we carry on to read what chapter 4 is all about now, in this situation. And help us to always to choose the right things from what we glean and what we understand of it. In Yeshua's name, Abba, we love you. Amen. Okay. I'm going to put our 1 hour mark to give a full devotion, a dedicated hour to Father. All right, start of an hour. Okay, so now we're gonna go into we're leaving the situation from Adam and Eve, and now we're gonna start seeing where Cain and Abel start to come in. Like I said, the on the side of the reading, it gives little titles, but like I said, titles help. It just gives you like a little insight as to what might be taking place or is taking place, but you just read it to titles are just there to help you and to guide you as to what you're going to be running into. Some caution, anything that's said, even by title, it might not be totally accurate to what is fully there. Of course, you judge everything on what Father has spoken of. Does the title fit? Does it not fit? I don't know. It just to me, titles help just a little bit. Just like even when I said, I think I've told you all, when it comes down to even reading commentators' comments, there's cautionary to a lot of things, because a lot of us can be, we all have a comment to say on what we read. Is it by facts, where their sources are from? You'd have to really do an extensive study even on some commentators of where they get their material, but I don't mind reading certain things by others just to see where their insight was when they were reading the word for themselves, that passage that I'm on. And then with the additional stuff that they put out, I tend to question, okay, where did this come from? Some of them don't give their references as to where they pull, but like I said, if you have your extra tools where you're finding the definitions out, and if you have your extra versions of Bibles, to kind of see if what is stated by commentators, then that'll help you to see if maybe this person is pulling from a totally different book that is just based off by another commentator's thoughts and insights. But the main part is where we're to look at Father's words at all times and look up the definitions to those things that are said, to have that confirmation that it's true. Okay, so carrying on, I'll read a little bit from chapter 3 and then I'll move forward with chapter 4. Starting on verse 22. And Jehovah said, Look, Adam has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. So now may he never stretch out his hand and take from the tree of life and eat, and will live forever. So Jehovah sent him away from the luxurious garden to work the earth from which he was taken. So he threw Adam out and settled him opposite the luxurious garden, and stationed the cherubim and the flaming turning sword to guard the way of the tree of life. Okay, like I said, title, Cain and Abel. And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and brought forth Cain and said, I have acquired a man through Jehovah. And she proceeded to bring forth his brother Abel. Abel, okay, like here I would have to pull from a different place, but it almost kind of seems like Cain and Abel were twins. It could kind of be said of that, but I think in a different version it shows where they're both born at separate times, and she had something to say, I think in the differences of those births. But like I said, I would have to pull from another area to find that out. Maybe I can try to do that now. Let me see. If I look up Genesis. Verse 1. And I've been shown a place where you can see where many versions pull up. If you do a search through Bible Hub, you can see a lot of versions to read by. Okay, so here it could seem in the Septuagint like if she had twins, because it could be thought of that way. And she proceeded to bring forth his brother Abel. If I only had that one version, I would have taken it that, okay, she had the first one, and then now here comes the second. But looking up through Bible Hub on verse 2 of Genesis chapter 4, it says, later she gave birth to his brother Abel. So see, this puts him as later she gave birth. Okay, that's the NIV. Then the NLT, later she gave birth to his brother and named him Abel. English Standard Version, and again she bore his brother Abel. That could kind of seem like later on or just right after. The Berean Standard Bible, later she gave birth to Cain's brother. Okay. And then King James Version, and she again bare his brother Abel. So see, it's good to have many versions, so that way you can see that where one could take it one way, um, you can get more insight with other ones to see, okay, what is it? Are they twins? Are they not twins? Okay. And let's see. And she proceeded to bring forth his brother Abel. Abel became a herdsman of sheep, and Cain was working the earth. Now this happened after a number of days. And I'm wondering if that days means years. If I'm not mistaken, I remember looking up the word days one time, and days can actually mean years. Let me check that out real quick. Now I'm on the Blue Letter Bible, checking for the definition. In the process of time. Okay, well, being in the Septuagint, it just says, now this happened after a number of days. And when you look up through the King James Version on the Blue Letter Bible, and you would go to the phrase where it says time of, okay, and that would be Yom by the Hebrew 31:17.
And H 31:17. Yom.
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 Okay. The Blue Letter Bible also, well, it can say the pronunciation for you as well. And it says day, time, year. Days, time, just a period, a year. I don't know how to look at that. Now this happened after a number of days. Cain brought some of the fruit of the earth as an offering for Jehovah. I take that days as years. I don't see Cain acting out this badly from what comes out of it over just a small period of time. As in, like, days could be what, even 2 days, as opposed to like saying a couple meaning two. Him being so angry within two days, by that type of plural, and him really going forth and doing what we're about to read that he's going to be doing. So I take it as like this thing that's been festering in his heart, this thing that's been bothering him, has been for a period of time. That's how I look at this word of days. Now this happened after a number of days. Cain brought some of the fruit of the earth as an offering for Jehovah. And Abel himself also brought some of the firstborn of his sheep. Excuse me. And some of their hard fat parts. Jehovah looked upon Abel and upon his gifts. Okay, so here we can see offerings happening to Father. Okay, and this will tie in really well when we start to read when the Levitical system happens and stuff like that, when offerings are said more and pointed more by the word offerings, sacrifices, and stuff like that. But before then, we can still see where it all started to begin with. Okay, so that's what we're seeing right here by Abel in verse 4. And Abel himself also brought some of the firstborn of his sheep and some of their fat parts. Jehovah looked upon Abel and upon his gifts, but he did not pay attention to Cain and to his offerings. Okay, it specifies there, so we can see there's these offerings that are being made. He grieved Cain very much, and he fell in faith. But he did not pay attention to Cain and to his offerings. He grieved Cain very much. Sorry, I was telling you, this is a brand new book for me, so it takes me a bit, especially when it's like I'm seeing certain parts that I've never read from another version, and it's much more like you can think on it a little bit much more bigger. When you hadn't seen this type or this kind of explanation where Father grieved Cain very much, and he fell in faith. Jehovah said to Cain, oh, okay, so it's not that Father grieved Cain. I guess right here it's showing that Cain was grieved due to Father very much, and he fell in faith, like he was sad, upset, because Father did not pay attention to his offerings. Jehovah said to Cain, why have you become deeply grieved? Okay, so there we go. It was Cain who was grieved at Father. Why have you become deeply grieved, and why has your face fallen? You know, that sulking kind of makes me think of when me as a child, when I was so upset with something and just didn't want to look upon your mom, you know. Yeah, just makes me think of that, like that pouting kind of situation where you're just like upset over something but you just can't stare at your parent. And yet they can tell you're upset and you're like, you know, why are you mad? I'm not mad. You know, you have those type of answers. And you answer kind of rough with them too, but they're like, yes, you are. Tell you're mad. And, no, I'm not. This just makes me think that's what's happening here. Okay, so he's asking, why are you deeply grieved and why has your face fallen? Have you not sinned have you not sinned if you offer rightly, but do not divide rightly? Okay, have you not sinned if you offer rightly, but do not divide rightly? Calm down, and that has like an exclamation point. See, I've never read this type of version before, so bear with me. It takes me a moment to like really see how I'm trying to think of how Father's attitude is here, you know, how it's being stated. Have you not sinned if you offer rightly, but do not divide rightly? Is that in the sense like he's not dividing right by the offering being made? Because I mean, you do see in the previous verses where Abel himself, when he was offering his portion, it seemed like he even gave Father either some extra pieces or the better pieces, I guess, especially if you go to verse 4, and it says that he brought some of the firstborn of his sheep and some of their hard fat parts. seems like by extra, like the more tenderest stuff, the juicy parts. Thinking from like when we cook meat ourselves, what portions have like the good chunks that get flavored full by the fat of it. And here, like if he's telling, excuse me, my son's coming. You might hear the door open here in a bit. And here maybe he's telling, Cain that if you were to judge your offering in a sense rightly, like consider what you're giving me in a sense, then you wouldn't see that you're not doing wrong by it. But if you're to look at what you're giving me, and see for yourself, is it not in a sense by error? You're not rightly looking at what you're giving me, especially with the fact that Yehovah, he's our king, he's our God, he's our father, and he is to be reverenced as so, like what we look at today with those that are in high offices or that have, titles that are, high. Of course, over here in the U.S., we don't have king like what you do over there in like UK, London, where they have a queen and all that. Everything's due by respect of that. And it's not to say our presidents don't get, that type of respect as well. But this is Father. This is Yehovah, the Creator of creation. And so I don't know. I think that's what it is. Like he's like, you're not taking into consideration what you're supposed to be, um, giving me the best. Have you not sinned if you offer rightly? So if he's not offering rightly, then of course he's sinning by that. But do not divide rightly. And this like do not divide rightly, it makes me think of, I can't recall where the verse is at, where we are to rightly divide when it comes down to doing judgment. Let me try to find that. Rightly divide the word of truth. Okay, rightly dividing the word of truth is stated by Paul to Timothy. Yeah, that's what makes me think of that one verse. See, do your best to present yourself to Yehovah as one approved, a worker who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth. Okay, that's by one reading from one of the versions. But the King James Version, study to show thyself approved, and that study to show thyself is, my husband taught this a while back, and that word study is like to hasten to do right. Okay, so to be quick when you know that you've erred or you've done something or you know of to be doing something, get onto it. Okay, to show thyself approved unto Yehovah, and a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth, knowing right from wrong, judging it, and moving quickly on it when you finally have rightly divided. Yes, this is what it is saying. This is what Father wants me to do. That kind of thing. So that's what this is taking me to, where he's like telling Cain, you're not looking at what you're giving me. You're not looking at what you're doing by your offerings, and this is why I haven't been paying attention to what you give me. You don't give me your best by it. You don't give me your best by it. Okay, so going back to Father's statement, why have you become deeply grieved, and why has your face fallen? Have you not sinned if you offer rightly, but do not divide rightly? Calm down, okay? And it's showing like Father saying this like with a stronger expression. Calm down. His recourse will be to you, and you will rule him. And you will rule him. And Cain said to Abel, his brother. Okay, this part takes me to one of, like I said, one of the versions of reading is where Father is trying to say that sin is crouching at your door. So I guess it does tie into like that situation starting at verse 7. You know, have you not sinned if you offer rightly, but do not divide rightly? Calm down. His recourse will be to you, and you will rule him. Okay. But in other versions, it says, you know, where Father's telling him that sin is crouching at your door, and you can master it. You can master it. Let me try to find it. Okay, I'll go to the most popular one that's read, the most King James Version. If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted, and if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. Okay, so this sin thing, um, especially like what we've seen by Adam and Eve, this sin now is starting to present itself um, like a, you know, a tempter here. Um, and you and unto you shall be his desire. Okay, so now it's kind of like reading the King James version is like personifying it, like making it understandable that this thing that's warring in your spirit, this thing wants to overtake you, you know. Um, okay, and unto thee shall be shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Okay, so that's what is said by King James version when you read it. So the same thing kind of right here is where Father's saying his recourse will be to you. You know, his desire is this sin thing is to desire you. His recourse will be to you, and you will rule him. Like you have to master him. You have to master it. You see, the New American Standard Bible points, but you must master it. Okay. And Cain said to Abel, his brother. Okay, so now it shifts over to what's going on. This thing. Okay, so I don't know how to look at this. And Cain said to Abel, his brother, let's walk through the field. And this happened while they were in the field. Cain rose against Abel, his brother. Okay, so I guess the way I could try to think on this is he's his conscience. It's a spiritual warfare that's happening in him. It's kind of like, well, you know, what we've seen by cartoons, and I've heard other um, brothers use the same kind of analogy with the cartoon where you have the devil on the side and the good angel on the other side, you know, poking at you. And so this thing that's within you, you know, you're it's starting to penetrate this sin that's wanting to tempt you to fall, you know, because you're having issues with a family member. And right here we see his issue is going to be with Abel. And so now Father also within his spirit is telling him, don't do it. If you were to just be doing right, if you were to just study my word, rightly divide what I have spoken, what I've told you all, it would be accepted. And so because he's seeing that his offering is being ignored, all this is starting to bother within him. So I see that he's hearing Father in his head trying to tell him, you better overcome that. Okay. And Cain said to Abel, going back to verse 8, his brother, let's walk through the field. And this happened while they were in the field. Cain rose against Abel, his brother, and he killed him. Then Jehovah said to Cain, where is Abel, your brother? But he said, I don't know. I'm not my brother's guardian, am I? And Jehovah said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying out to me from the earth. Now accursed are you upon the earth, which opened its mouth wide to receive the blood of your brother from your hand, because you will work the earth. It will not proceed to give its strength to you. You will moan and terrible upon the earth. Okay, so here now, and maybe it's not to say that Cain isn't seeing Father. Maybe this was like a quick warning before we got to this portion of where the incident finally occurred. So maybe Cain did, and maybe I'm the one off in a sense, where I'm thinking, okay, is this just a conversation in his head, or is he just hearing Father? I mean, because I know that's more or less how I view it by my own situation with Father at the moment. Like I can't hear him audibly like some can. And I have yet to meet him that I know of, not by knowing. If I've met him, possibly it's just like we entertain the angels unaware kind of thing. But I always think to even my situation, maybe it's just me thinking like this is happening in his head. He knows of what Father expects of him, and he hasn't come around to doing right judgment in what he offers. And he knows it, and it's bothering him that he sees someone else provoking him unto good works, but he doesn't want to move into doing those good works by the example of his own brother Abel. But maybe it is that Father and him did have this conversation, because now as I keep reading, it looks like Father and him are now talking face to face. That's what it seems like anyway. And then going towards where Cain, says, oh, I don't know. I'm not my brother's guardian, am I? Now, if you can recall when I was reading the Nelson's Bible Maps and Charts, and we came across a chart where it kind of says like these words kind of are used in like catchphrases of the day in a sense, and it's used to a different meaning, and it used Cain's peace here that he spoke to Father. It's used in so many other places by different expressions for it. And I've seen this type of, to me, my own version of what when I've heard some say, like um, in a sense, we're not to judge, or where um, we are to kind of like walk our own salvation out, trying to like avoid this like accountability to one another. And I've always like when I've heard comments like that, it makes me think of like, am I my brother's keeper? Now we know ultimately it is Father. Father is the only keeper of, out of all of us. But then you do have where you do read in by the disciples themselves and what they said, where we are accountable to one another. Tell your brother, or your sister, the elders, of what's going on, so this way you can get prayed for. You have all these things where we are to be subject to one another. So it's not to say that we're supposed to be above Father and be, dominant over each other, in a sense, to where being your brother's keeper makes you the ultimate keeper over them. No, that's not where it's at for me by that thought. It's just that when I've heard some state, like, I don't have to answer to nobody. It's just by God alone. And in some degrees that is, but like I said, we will read where Father didn't give us ministers and all these things down the road, as we can read from, if we weren't supposed to kind of like keep each other, in you know an alignment to Father. And there's even where in the commandments, well, of the Leviticus, when I started reading, I think it's in Leviticus, it was in Numbers, where you can even get in trouble if you didn't go and warn someone for their accountability to being right. You yourself could go down with them, so that's how much it's like, when I hear certain comments, I think of like, am I my brother's keeper, or am I his guardian? We're supposed to look out for one another. That's what family members should be doing, making sure that no one goes up to the judge for just judgment. But anyways, that's besides the point. But I just wanted to point this portion out because I remember when we were reading the Nelson's Bible, Apples and Charts, and I knew we were going to get to this point. I thought I can speak a little bit more of my mind when I read Cain's expression to Father, and then how much it relates so much to the way many attitudes I see today of thinking we're not really to be accountable for what to one another. And that could be why so many don't we're not all in fellowship. It's really sad. We're all still scattered, and it's really sad. Anyways, though, okay, so we'll go back to the same comment by Cain. I'm not my brother's guardian, am I? Am I? Yehovah said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying out to me from the earth. Now, accursed are you upon the earth. Okay, here comes Father's judgments now, which opened its mouth wide to receive the blood of your brother from your hand. Because you will work the earth, it will not proceed to give its strength to you. And I forgot to go. I am so sorry. I know since the beginning of it, I tried to read the words that were in fine print that go next to the words above as we read. So I know this is like, we're already in Cain and Abel's story, but I just don't want to leave nothing behind. So in the previous chapter, chapter 3, when we're still reading on Adam and Eve, there's a letter A by the name Zoe. And Zoe in the Greek, it says, it means the word of life. Okay, so Eve, by a different version, means life, and Zoe in the Greek means life as well. And then we have the letter B. Let me try to find where that's at. Okay, still within chapter 3. I should have read this last time. I don't think I did. The letter B was by the word forever, and that just meant literally into the age. Now, I can't recall if I did or didn't from the last YouTube video, but I just thought to put that out there now that I'm moving forward to the next page. Okay, because back to Cain and Abel, let's get back to them. Because you will work the earth, it will not proceed to give its strength to you. You will moan and tremble upon the earth. Cain said to Jehovah, my guilt is too great for me to be forgiven. My guilt is too great for me to be forgiven. If you throw me out today from the face of the earth, and I will be hidden from your face, then I will be moaning and trembling upon the earth, and anyone who finds me will kill me. Jehovah said to him, it will not be like that. Anyone who kills Cain will release 7 reprisals. Jehovah has placed a sign for Cain so that none who find him would kill him. And those are in quotations. Okay, so everything that I've just read to you all is within conversation pieces. It's not just saying like what took place between Father and Cain. These are what is being said. So I think even right here, because I've never seen this kind of like much more broader or more extensive to what Cain has said to Father by the other versions, but it kind of seems like right here he's not that he's really said I'm sorry, but for Father to have compassion in the sense that he's like, look, I know you're fearing that someone's gonna kill you, but here's where I'm gonna not let you have it so hard to that extent where, you know, a life for a life here. Because I think you can see that now Cain, having experienced this one wicked deed that he did not master, like Father told him that he needs to master if he were to just rightly divide what's going on, for things to go right for him. He's brought on now this one thing that Father's like, you're about to do something that you're going to face much more different heartache by it. Because I mean, first we have Cain, where it seems like this jealousy phase was starting to happen, that needed to be mastered in a sense. Sin presenting itself, I guess, with murderous thoughts, anger thoughts, to do something to his brother Abel. And now we see a different thing that he's now experienced, and now he has this weight upon his heart, for him to tell him, because like Father already told him, look, this is what I'm sentencing you by, in a sense. You're now accursed. You're going to have to work the ground that your brother's blood is in, and you're going to be moaning and trembling in the earth. And so now Cain telling Father, my guilt is too great for me to be forgiven. Like, I'm I don't deserve forgiveness. I have this big guilt within me. Everything comes from the heart. So he's telling Father, my guilt is too great for me to be forgiven. If you throw me out today from the face of the earth, and I will be hidden from your face, then I will be moaning and trembling upon the earth. Like he's like, I know I'm not going to do well without you. Like I know if you're casting me out and I'm no longer going to be able to see you, I am what you say I'm going to be doing is moaning and trembling. You're telling me truth, Father. I know what I'm going to be miserable without you. Then I will be moaning and trembling upon the earth, and anyone who finds me will kill me. So now he's afraid for his own life, because now this shame now makes him feel like, oh man, I'm gonna have to be the one on guard now because of what I've done. And so I take that as him, Father, just looking at him like, yeah, he's never experienced this before, of course. So his guilt, it could be really truly seen. That remorse, I take it, but Father wasn't going. He's a just judge. He's not going to just let anything slide. He's going to bring about his judgment. So he didn't turn it from him, but he did let him know, like, look, not like he's one of those serial killers, where it's like he looked like he was feeling guilty, and some just look like they've gone past the guilt phase and they just become like, I don't know, just dark and twisted to where they enjoy killing. I mean, thinking on murderous stories where it's like there was so many that they wiped, and why? But then when you know how wicked the world is and how much the enemy can grow in someone, it makes sense now. But right here, it's like Cain could see that Father was trying to warn him and he should have done what was said. But I don't know. Right here I take it as his Father having this one slight compassion on him, and the fact that, he's gonna carry that with him for the rest of his life. That he's like, look, I'm not gonna let anyone kill you. Okay, so by verse 15 again, Jehovah said to him, it will not be like that. Anyone who kills Cain will release 7 reprisals. Jehovah has placed a sign for Cain so that none who find him would kill him. Cain went out from the face of Jehovah and lived in the land of Nod, opposite Eden. Cain knew his wife. Okay, so now it goes on to the life of Cain a little bit here. Cain knew his wife, and once she conceived, she brought forth Enoch. Okay, so depending on where Cain was, this Nod place was, and I guess you could say that there was more life there, more life than what we know by Adam and Eve. Is it angels? I mean, it says the Father created heavens and earth. Were they all roaming? I don't know. There's just so much to think upon. But we know heavens and layers. Later on, we do read where angels did mate with women. Was his wife something of that? I don't know. Some say that angels are pure men. I don't know. All these what ifs, what is it, like, I don't know, question marks. But here we do see that he finds a wife, or was this wife within still. But see, Adam and Eve, they only had, what maybe this was a sister. We just know of Cain and Abel's name first. Maybe he has a sister and he took a sister. Many thoughts by it. But I'm assuming so, that it could be a sister. Some have said it was probably one of Seth's, because Adam and Eve had another child down the road. But I don't think Cain was ever really a part of his life, to take any of his children for a wife. So I'm assuming that Cain and Abel had a sister, had sisters. Okay, so Cain knew his wife, and once she conceived, she brought forth Enoch. He was building a city and named the city after the name of his son, Enoch. Irad was born to Enoch, and Irad fathered Mehujael, and Mehujael fathered Methushael, and Methushael fathered Lamech. Lamech took 2 wives for himself. The name of the one was Adah, and the name of the second was Zillah. Adah brought forth Jabal. This man was the father of cattle raisers who live in tents. Okay, so Adah brought forth Jabal. This man was the father of cattle raisers who lived in tents. I don't know who that's referencing towards. Is it Adah who just brought forth Jabal and he's the father of the cattle raisers, or is it Jabal who is the cattle raisers? The name of his brother was Jubal, so I guess it was Jabal. Okay, so the name of his brother was Jubal. This man was the one who invented the harp and lyre. Zillah brought forth, even she, Tubal Cain, and he was a hammer-using coppersmith of copper and of iron. The sister of Tubal Cain was Naamah. And so now we're seeing where a sister is mentioned. Nothing was mentioned by Cain and Abel, but that's just a wonder where the wife came from by that. The sister of Tubal Cain was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice. Wives of Lamech, give ear to my words, because I killed a man for a wound to me, and a young man for a bruise to me. Because sevenfold revenge has been given to Cain, but from Lamech 70 times 7. Oh, I forgot to read. Okay, well, let's go back a little bit. Okay, so where it says that in verse 18, Arad was born to Enoch. There's a letter A by that one, and it means literally, there came to be for Enoch Arad. There came to be for Enoch Arad. Okay, so whether you read it as Arad was born to Enoch, or you could take it there came to be for Enoch Arad. Okay, just someone that was given to him for a child. Then by, let's see here, B, the letter B, there's only 3 letters here, mini letters. and this little b is by the name Cain, where Lamech is speaking of Cain, and it means literally 7 times has been avenged from Cain. 7 times has been avenged from Cain. And so we just see um, where the heart is starting to turn in certain ones. It doesn't specify as to, what happened truly between Lamech and this person that he says that he's killed. And it seems like he's taken out 2 people here, because his statement says to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, wives of Lamech, give ear to my words, because I killed a man for a wound to me, and a young man for a bruise to me. So one is an older man, and the other is a younger man. And now I don't know about the whole situation about like angels and humans, and how much of it is in relation to Adam and Eve's situation of being immortal to mortal, and the makeup of DNA and all this other stuff that's out there, of questions upon questions to all this situation. But is this Lamech, because he has 2 wives, could it be seen that he took out these 2 men for their sake? I don't know. Lamech took, see, if we go to verse 19, it says Lamech took 2 wives for himself. It's not like he was given or he met, I don't know how to view that. Lamech took 2 wives for himself. The name of the one was Adah, and the name of the second was Zillah. And I know that the angels are the ones that took wives to themselves. I don't see, that's why I don't know all this history with angels and humans. But I don't know if these 2 men were their husbands, or if he just took 2 wives and now he's just telling them about this situation that took place with him and these 2 men. But I take it as that he took out 2 men, and one he killed because he got wounded by this one older man, and then he took out the younger man for just bruising him. But because of what he knows by Cain's slight protection by father, now he wants to lay claims of that same protection, it seems, but doubles it because of the fact that he took out 2. That's why I think that's why he's claiming it as double time in a sense for himself, because 7-fold revenge has been given to Cain, but from Lamech 70 times 7. I don't know. There's much to think on this situation that is spoken of Lamech. But here we can see that the whole multiple wives, where it came in all the way back over here in Genesis. Let's see, is there anything else to be shared on what's being said here? Well, I'll just finish up chapter 4 because I know time's almost done. And then I'll look up I was going to look up, let me see. I was going to look up a word. Oh, yeah, I wanted to look up 7 reprisals. I don't know what that word means, and I can't recall where I read that portion, but by its different definition. Okay, so let me just finish out chapter 4 because we're practically 1 minute out and a couple seconds now. Okay, so verse 25, Adam knew Eve, his wife, and once she conceived, she brought forth a son and called his name Seth, saying, because Jehovah raised up another offspring for me in the place of Abel, whom Cain killed. Seth had a son, and he called his name Enosh. This one hoped to invoke the name of Jehovah. Eloah Jehovah. This one hoped to invoke the name of Jehovah. Okay, so here we just see where Adam and Eve now got blessed by another son, to replace, to fill in for having lost Abel, and then what was said by Eve upon his birth. She's acknowledging the fact that Father gave her another offspring due to what happened to Abel. And then and so those were her comments, and then it just shifts into Seth and what's coming from him in children. So it says that he had a son, and then he called his name Enosh. And then by Enosh, that is where that takes care of time. So we did pretty well in completing chapter 4. And that's where it is said of his name, Enosh, where he's the one that is hoped to invoke the name of Father Jehovah. It's spoken of differently, of course, in different versions. Something along the lines, like, I think, and through him, through Enosh, Father's name was believed or something like that. Let me look it up real quick. I'll look up 2 things and then I'll pray us out. Okay. Genesis 4, 26. Find out what it was said. Okay, by King James Version, and to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of Jehovah. Okay, so by him, this one, from this version, this one hoped to invoke the name of Jehovah. And it says on other translations that men started to begin to call upon the name of Jehovah. Could it be that there was, somewhat of a falling away, of feeling like hope was lost, and through Enosh, from whatever type of, strengths that he carried by characteristics, now many were starting to worship Father all over again. You could just tell, in a sense, who's like leadership, who's who has that within their spirit that Father gave them. You could just, that person's a leader. Let's see other versions here besides that one. A New Living Translation when Seth grew up, he had a son and named him Enosh. At that time, people first began to worship Yehovah by name. Okay, that's different. At that time, people first began to worship Yehovah by name. Like, they didn't know Father's name prior? Is that how it's thought in that that translation? At that time, people first began to worship Yehovah. At that time, people first began to worship Yehovah by name. What did they know him by beforehand? I don't know. Maybe Father doesn't always reveal his name right away. Of course, we can see that same example when it comes down to Moses. And Moses is like, what do we call you? Because I'm going to go back to Egypt where there's many gods that have a name, they're not known as just a god, and then Father, explains, I am that I am, but then later on he reveals his name. And so now by Enosh, this same situation, maybe beforehand they didn't know what his name was. He was just Eloah, of Elohims, I don't know, of God of gods kind of thing. They just know him as God, the creator maybe. Let's see, the English Standard Version, to Seth also a son was born, and he called his name Enosh. At that time, people began to call upon the name of Yehovah. So now this one has a different type of understanding, to call upon him. And there was one where they began to worship him by his actual name, when they started to call upon him. And then by this translation piece, it was this one hoped to invoke, to get it known, hoped to invoke the name of Yehovah. Okay, so invoke, to cite or appeal to as an authority. Similar words could be to use the name of Yehovah. Just some extra insight, to how to look at these pieces. Okay, last thing to look up for myself. I'm gonna go to the here. Verse 15, just to see what other things are said of it. Okay, the English Standard Version, then Yehovah said to him, not so. If anyone kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And Yehovah put a mark on Cain, lest any who found him should attack him. Who knows what that mark was, to really you can just have any type of mark, like a birthmark, and would you really understand that's kind of like a shield. Don't you touch that person, you know, like as a warning. Would someone really comprehend that? Like, how would they know, even through that mark? Like, you just don't go and kill that one person because something on your part can happen. Like, worst situation can happen. Berean Standard Bible. Not so, replied Jehovah. If anyone slays Cain, then Cain will be avenged sevenfold. And Jehovah placed a mark on Cain, so that no one who found him would kill him. King James Version. And Jehovah said unto him, Therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And Jehovah set a mark upon Cain, lest any find him should kill him. I'm just going to look up that word by a random Google search for any type of definition. I don't know, Webster or whatever. Let's just see, anyways, to do a comparison. I've never heard this word, anyways, that's why. An act of retaliation. Okay, so if anybody wishes to kill him, vengeance. There's the similar words that go along with the other versions that were being stated. Vengeance. And that takes care of that for today's reading. So now we can see, now what I'm seeing, I hope you guys are seeing almost the same thing as I, is how Father works his words out, him being a just judge, and how, he probably looks at things and how he goes about judging it. Because I know down the road we read, in a sense, life for life, in a sense, like, why didn't Cain, in a sense, get wiped out? Because he took a life. But I don't know how to look at that. Is it just because of the fact that he don't get me wrong, it's not like in contract written form of the law, but he had the law. Father was there, and it's not to say that Father wasn't giving him warning, but him never having that, Father gave him, a harsh punishment, because he wasn't going to be with him anymore. That was it. You're going to have to try to do life on your own. So some can't look at Father like he was this blood hungry God. If we can look to these situations that should have looked like by death, in a sense, from what he told Adam and Eve, if they would have ate, they should have died. But when you examine his other laws to see what possibly was the reason for those type of sentencings, he's not as harsh of a God as I've heard some have thought him to be. He's not. He's compassionate, considerate. Things that should have been done by what we think by English definition, only points to more of like compassionate for having not done what we thought was supposed to be so. That makes sense. And so now here, even with Cain, then you can look, I guess, at certain situations in um, um, prison sentences, like certain people that have gone through this type of same charge, and yet it wasn't a death sentence upon them, but they're doing time they're doing life uh, in prison. They're doing life in prison, and they're sad. They're so far away from those that they wish they could see. And they probably got warned just the same, by others, like don't go after so and so. You need to learn to forgive, or you need to learn to. But still, something takes over. That one thing that they just did not master takes over. Now they're doing life in prison, and that to me is still compassion, a sentence. That they didn't have to taste their life being taken for having taken a life. And I mean, even for my own situation too, I know I was gonna save it for down the road. Everything's like down the road when we keep growing and growing it, but going on to this whole situation, even with those that big old turmoil with uh, those that are have done abortions, whatever the story or the situation is for the abortions, but we have those things where, because I don't know, because you don't see the person alive, I guess. Um, and so many look at it as that's supposed to be more deemed as murderous, but a life is a life. Even a baby within the womb is a life, and yet they're not facing life in prison. But I'm pretty sure the torment is up here, because sadly, that's my situation. That's my story. You know, I have blood on my hands, and it's not comfortable bringing this truth out. It's not. And I think more or less down the road, I'll talk more on the situation of why but it's a blessing in the sense of where you can see where Father in certain situations didn't make it as drastic as what it should have possibly been, or how he um, made it a way to where you can try to find that reconciliation. Back with him. But anyways, that's just much to think on. Much to think on from what you can read from his word. And so much to be grateful for when you finally see possibly have a little bit in thoughts towards what it could have been as right, maybe. It's your hoping, anyways. But that's our reading for today. I hope you guys do your own research out there for what was said. Um, check into things um, for better insight. Maybe there's certain parts that I don't have it fully down myself yet, and I don't. I'm I'm still forever learning in the Word, but what I come to feel conviction wise, or that I sense is possibly so, I try to work at putting it into quick um, action, doing it quickly, you know. I just pray that this was helpful in some ways, for anything else that you possibly were thinking on when we got to that piece. But anyways, Father Jehovah, I come before you giving you praise and thanks for our study time before you. Thank you for sitting with us and just helping us to see see your words for what is being said in all many different translations, and to try to really know what it is that what you're meaning, the main point for each piece that we read, from the start of chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way, Father, through your word. What are you causing us to see, the main points? So this way we don't find ourselves in that same situation to where we get cut off in by any of your definitions to what that looks like, knowing that obedience is what's going to have us in your presence. That's what's going to cause us to live. So I thank you, Father, for guiding us and letting us have this one-on-one time, even through assumption. It's okay to talk with you. This is what a relationship's all about, until you're the one that brings the clarity, be it by others, that help in our accountability, that help us along the way to look and see things from where they've gleaned and understood you by, to help sharpen. And so I love you, Father, and what you have given us as a family of believers in you, so that we can always know that we all need each other to grow in you by. So I just thank you, Father. Please be with everybody that is taking their time to study your word, and keep us unified, Father. And that's where it says we need to grow and learning how to be as a body, not making your body parts detached and thinking like it can grow, walk on its own. And, I don't know, we have to stay attached in order for your word to be, moving and to make you known, Father. So please help us to stay unified at all times. In Yeshua's name, Father, we love you. Our hearts and minds forever yours. Yeshua's name, amen. That's it, everybody. I pray you all have a blessed week, and I will see you for sure, well, hopefully for sure next Monday. And I'm hoping to still squeeze in that one day. But if not, I will see you all on Monday. Love you all, and I'm praying for each and every one of you. Don't give up.